Hi everyone. Hope you all are good. We are here for grade 9 math. So you can find all the lessons on aplusstudents.com. You have to log in there using your email address and password is provided by the administrator. Then you have to select math from the subject tab, scroll down to grade 9 math and then click on view all lessons. There you can find the list of the chapters. We're going to start with the chapter radical expressions. The lessons we're going to cover today are simplify radical expressions using distributive property, simplify radical expressions, mixed review, and divide radical expressions. So here I'm on grade 9 math. The chapter we are on right now is radical expressions. Let's just start with the lesson that is simplify radical expressions using distributive property. Okay, let's just start with the lesson simplify radical expressions using distributive property. So you have to multiply, right? The multiplication property of square root state that if you have square root AB, you can write it as square root A times square root B. So you simply have to multiply them. Multiply negative 5 square root with both the numbers inside the bracket, that is negative 5 times negative 9 plus negative 5 times, that is 9 square root 5 plus square root 10. Let's just start with the test questions. So you have to apply the properties of multiplication with square root. You need to multiply square root 3 with everything that is inside the bracket. So negative 9 times square root 3 is negative 9 square root 3. Right? Square root 3 times square root 2 is you have to multiply them. 3 times 2 you have plus here, sorry. So that is negative 9 square root 3 plus square root 6. The correct option is option number. The correct option is option number 2. That is negative 9 square root 3 plus square root 6. Option number 2 is the correct option. Very good. Okay, multiply. So which is the correct option? That is negative 2 square root times negative 2 minus square root 2, which is the correct option. That is 2 square root 2 plus square root 2. Option number 2 is the correct option. Oh yes, option number 1 is the correct option. Square root 2 times square root 2 means you have 2 it is. So 2 square root 2 plus 2. Option number 1 is the correct option. Multiply. Write your answer in simplest form. So which is the correct option? So the correct option is you have to multiply, right? Negative 5 times square root 3 and minus square root 6. Let's just multiply. You have to do negative 3 square root 3 times negative 5. So that is negative 5 square root 3. Now you have to multiply square root 3 times square root 2. So that is square root 6. Option number 1 is the correct option. Got it? Okay, the next one is multiply, which is the correct option. That is the second one. Very good. Okay, the next one is multiply square root 2 times 6 plus square root 3. So which is the correct option? Option number 2 is the correct option, right? That is 6 square root 2 plus square root 6. Now, why option number 1? Square root 3 times square root 2, right? So 3 times 2 makes 6. Not only 6, right? Square root cancel out when you have square, right? So option number 2 is the correct option. That is 6 square root 2 plus square root 6. Got it? Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. The next lesson is simplify radical expressions mixed review. So you have to write your answer in simplest form. Negative 9 square root 3 plus square root 3. So basically they both have square root 3, right? So you can see square root 3 as like term, right? So you can take common square root 3, you are left with negative 9 plus 1. So negative 9 plus 1 makes negative 8 square root 3. So basically we are going to learn the distributive property, right? Distributive property means you have a square root 3 plus b square root c, right? Square root c is the like term, right? You can write it as a plus b and square root c is the same, right? Let's just start with the test questions. Okay, so you have to simplify square root 350. Let's just make the prime factors of 350, right? So the prime factors, right? 7 times 5 is 35, right? 7 is a prime number. Now 50 we have 5 times 2 is 10 and 2 times 5 is 50. So you can write it as 7 times 2 times 5 square. They are the prime factors of 350, right? So then you can write square root 5 square and 7 times 2. So 2 and square root cancel out. You are left with 5. 7 times 2 is 14. That is 5 square root 14. Option number 2 is the correct option. The correct option is option number 2. That is 5 square root 14. Got it? Option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, the next one is 147 F4, right? Let's just factor out 147. You have to make the prime factors of 147, right? So 7 times 7 is 49, and 49 times, hold on, mm, 49 times 3 is 147, right? So you can write it as 7 times 3, and you have F4, right? So you can write it as F square, 7 square, and F square and square, right? And then you write square root 3. 2 square root, 2 square root cancel out. You're left with 7F square and square root 3. Got it? So the correct option is option number 2 is the correct option. Option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, square root negative square root 7 minus 7 square root 7. So which is the correct option? Just see square root 7 as a like term, right? So you have negative 1 square root 7 and minus 7 square root 7. Take square root 7 common, you are left with my negative 1 minus 7, right? So negative 1 minus 7 is negative 8 square root 7. The correct option is negative 8 square root 7. Option number 1 is the correct option. Got it? If you have any questions, you can please write down the question in the chat box. I'm here to answer all your questions and confusions if you have any. So the correct option is that is option number one. Very good. Why you keep guessing the answers? Use your notebook and pencil and solve and then write the correct option. That is 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 5 is 45, and 45 times 7 is 315, right? So that is 3 square root 30 root 15. Got it? Option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, the next one is square root 18. So let's just make the prime factors. 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 2 is 18, right? So you can write it as 3 square times 2. So 3 squares times square root 2. 2 and square root cancel out, you are left with 3 square root 2. So option number 1 is the correct option. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. The next lesson is divide radical expressions. Okay, let's simplify, rationalize the denominator. So basically, we have to remove the radical in the denominator, right? So the radical is not simplified because there is a radical in the denominator. Because the denominator has two terms, you should use its conjugate to rationalize it. What is conjugate? For example, here you have 4 minus square root 3. The conjugate of this is 4 plus square root 3, right? Just the same terms with an opposite sign. So you have to multiply and divide with the conjugate. So when you multiply and divide, that would be 7 times 4 plus square root 3 and 4 minus square root 3 times 4 plus square root 3. So a minus b, a plus b, make it in the form of square. 4 square and square root 3 square, right? So 28 plus 7 square root 3 divided by 16 minus 3, that is 28 plus 7 square root 3 divided by 13. Now you can see the denominator doesn't have any square root, right? Let's just start with the test questions. 6 divided by 4 minus square root 5. So you have to rationalize this. Rationalize, that is 6 divided by 4 minus square root 5, multiply it by the conjugate, that is 4 plus square root 5. So it is 6 plus 4 plus square root 5, that is 5, and 4 plus square root 5. They both exactly same, just with the opposite signs, right? So you can write it as a plus a minus b. You can write it as a square plus b square, right? So 4 square, square root 5 square. 2 square root cancel out. So that is 6 times 4 plus square root 5 divided by 16 minus 5. So 16 minus 5 is 11. That is 6 times 4 plus square root 5 divided by 11. So the correct option is option number 1 is the correct option. Option number 1 is the correct option, right? Okay, the next one is 8 divided by negative 6 plus square root 3. So let's just multiply it by the conjugate. That is 8 divided by negative 6 plus square root 3 times negative 6 minus square root 3. Just this sign is changed. The rest of the things are exactly same, right? That is 8 times negative 6 minus square root 3 divided by negative 6 square and plus square root 3 square minus it is. That is 8 times 6 is negative 48 minus 8 square root 3, 36 minus 3. So that is negative 48 minus 8 square root 3 divided by 33. The correct option is option number 1 is the correct option. Option number 1 is the correct option. Got it? Okay, the next one is simplify, rationalize the denominator. So, which is the correct option? Can you please solve the question on your notebook and write the answer over here? Option number 2 is the correct option. That would be 28 plus 7 square root 3 divided by 13. That is the correct option. How do I know? I simply squared 4 and squared square root 3. So 16 minus 3 is 13. So option number 2 is the correct option. So the correct option is option number 2 is the correct option. That is 6 plus 3 square root 3 because 4 minus 3 is 1. So option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, the next one is simplify. So, which is the correct option? But you are not given with the correct option over here. Okay, yes, you divide by the 2. Option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. So, we were working on grade 9 math. The chapter we were working on is radical expressions, and the lessons we have covered today are simplify radical expressions using distributive property, simplify radical expressions, makes review, and divide radical expressions. So please make sure before the next session you can complete all the practice questions for the lessons we just as your homework until next session. So if you need more help with any of the lesson, you can simply click on the live chat button, or either you can write down the questions in the chat box. I am here to answer all your questions and confusions if you have any. So you can please ask questions. No questions. Okay, then that's all for today. See you in the next session. Bye everyone.